What's up, everybody? It's the Shark Head, Daymond John, and today I'm bringing you a never told before story of how one of my FUBU employees actually quit and then ended up transforming my entire career. And I'm joined today by Champ to reflect on why he quit, what made him come back, and how he launched an entire new dimension of my business. You do get on the books and you end up doing sales for us and some of our divisions, and you were doing quite well with limited resources because they were new divisions.
Yep.
You're climbing the company ladder, you're friends with the founders, obviously we respect you and value you, but all of a sudden I remember you come over to me one day and you say, I'm going to leave. You loved it because you were learning.
Yep.
But now all of a sudden you leave to start school to become an attorney.
Yeah.
What was driving you to do that? And I remember you saying, like yesterday, you were like, listen, if I start today, by the time I get out of school, because you had to, you didn't graduate college yet.
No.
Right. So you said you'd be probably a practicing attorney in your 50s by the time you finished, right? What drove you to do that, especially after you went from 2 years not getting paid, but yet you were learning? Now you saw paid, and then you go, nope, I need to go and learn something else because I want to be an attorney. I want to fight for people. Or just tell me the mentality of what you were doing and why you did it.
Okay, well, there's a few reasons, but let me zero in on one. I was inspired by the people around me, and when you think about the people that inspire you, usually it's people that are positive influences on you. But sometimes you can get inspired by the people that you don't want to be like. And it was a few people that I had worked with that were, let's just say, they had a great gift of gab, and I worked with them way back. I never forgot a couple of folks that had worked back in the music industry. And after being around them for a while, I had figured out they're not necessarily smarter than me, but they can walk in a room and they knew how to express their thoughts and organize their thoughts and get their points across and just wow people. And one reason I wanted to go back to school is because I wanted to be a better communicator. I was always impressed by people that could move the crowd, whether that was a comedian standing on stage, whether it was a public speaker, whether it was a DJ, or it was an entertainer. I was always impressed with people that could move crowds of people in any way. And so I just wanted to go to school because I felt like I never wanted to get put on at FUBU. Like, one of the most valuable things you ever did for me, D, is you never really paid me a high-paying salary for a job. The most valuable things you did for me was give me a lane and say, hey, man, if you can find a way to create value, go ahead. I think that one of the worst things that could have happened to me in those 2 years that I came on, if somebody just says, hey, you're a friend of Keith, let me give you a high-paying salary, because I don't think I would have developed myself. At those 2 years of kind of struggling and trying to figure out how to create value, that's what made me curious about all the different aspects of business, and what made me start trying to see opportunities in different areas. So, I mean, I wasn't even in school yet, but I was kind of in school at FUBU. And I'm rambling a little, so I don't even remember the original question.
Oh, that's fine, because we're going to what really drove you to the going to school, and you were saying that you were inspired by people you wanted to be, as well as inspired by other people that you said they're not smarter than me, but they got the gift of gab and they understand how to articulate certain things certain ways.
Yep. And also I remember all the different deals. So much stuff used to go to our guy Larry. He was your general counsel. And I remember just talking to him about the law and telling him I was thinking about going to law school. And I spoke to you about it. And you guys said, go, if that's your passion, go ahead. And you could always come back. And then I talked to other friends who had gone to law school, and they said the biggest stress sometimes is not knowing if you had a job. So I knew I could do all of that, and I would be able to come back, may not make a lot of money, may have to start on the bottom, but I had a home to come back to, so it made it a little easier to go out and do that. And plus, I felt like I was limited with my communication skills. So I was limited on being able to provide value. I never wanted to just be put on and just have a job. I wanted to create.
All of a sudden you decide, most people would say, man, I worked so hard to get to this point. And then you decide to leave because you realize that you wanted to improve yourself in other ways. And a lot of people right now, they're going to go, man, I'm in my mid 30s and it's too late. I've already done all this. Why do I start new things like you did? Now, all of a sudden you go through your education. How far did you get? How many years? I think you left for what, 5 years?
I left almost 4. I was planning on going to, as you said, I was planning on going to law school. What happened is I did undergrad in 3.5 years, double major, 4.0. I don't say all that to brag. I say I burnt myself out. I remember I had a girlfriend at the time. She left me because I was so dedicated to hitting the books because my goal was always, I'm going to go to Harvard or Yale or Columbia. If I was going to do it, I was aiming for the top. And I burned myself out. After I finished undergrad, after my girl left me, I was like, man, I just need a break.
Well, and FUBU was super hot. FUBU was super hot. You went from going with me to clubs, private flights, all my homes, hanging out, of course, working, to then just nose on the grind in the books, 3.5 years. I didn't see you anymore. Your girlfriend then stayed with you a couple of those years and then left because she was she was just like, I need a life, together, but not like that. All right, so all of a sudden, and then you get burned out. What happens then next? Because I hope people are picking up on all this stuff, because this is just one great guy that I know, and we have a whole staff of amazing people out here. What happens next, champ?
All right, I'm gonna tell you what happened. I wasn't making that much money when I left as far as salary. As I said, the best thing that I think you ever did for me was you didn't pay me that much. So I had to figure out other ways to make money around the company, legally, of course, as you were saying. Now, after I did all of that in school and got scholarships and all that, and had my chest all puffed out, and I was studying for the LSAT, knowing I was gonna get to Harvard, I said to myself, man, I was burnt out. I said, well, let me go back, because I know I could at least double my salary. If I was worth this much before going to school and couldn't articulate myself and couldn't write, I just knew you was gonna lay out a fat paycheck for me. So the deal was this. The deal was you was gonna give me $1,000 a month, plus there was a $500 clothing allowance at Century 21 department store. Now I'm jumping around in the story, but I had came back and Daymond, we did something that you talk about a lot of times. It's like when you don't know what you're gonna do next, man, sometimes the best or the most valuable thing you could do is kind of take inventory. What do you have? Like, what do you have access to? What do you have going on? Who do you know? What do you know? You and I sat down one day and I was talking about the big job, and I said, Daymond, I need a big job, not a big job, but I need at least double what I was making before, because, I've gotten my value up. And I remember you saying, well, you did very well, but what you learned in school doesn't necessarily translate to running a fashion company. What happened is we did an inventory and you looked at all the things that you had, and you talked about the businesses. You said you was going to record a couple of pilots for some TV shows. You mentioned that you did a couple of speeches before, but nothing ever came of it, and you didn't make that much money. You kind of just did it because you felt it was the right thing to do. You didn't do it for the money. But when you started talking about speaking, it just kind of resonated with me, because it goes back to what I was saying before. I've always been attracted to people that could move crowds. I always loved the power of that. And I remembered, that feeling that I had coming into FUBU that time and just being in an entrepreneurial environment. And I said, man, this thing is so powerful. It has changed my life, made me want to do better for myself, inspired me to go back to school and make more of myself. I said, Daymond, you should go out there and start telling your story, man, because maybe it'll touch people the way it touched me, and maybe it could change other people the way it changed me. Like I was saying before, for so many of us, we just don't picture ourselves climbing the corporate ladder. You know what I mean? But we also sometimes we don't believe we can build our own corporations. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I wanted you to go out and just kind of tell your journey of what you built.
Everybody told you how you couldn't just break into it, how all the reasons why it didn't work. And I want to make sure that everybody hears all the no's that you had heard and what happened. How do you still say, I'm still going to do it? What did we put together? Like, talk to me about those things that you learned that people could take away from right now.
Okay. Well, I think, once we kind of took the inventory and I kind of zeroed in on the speaking, then, and I said, this is something that I wanted to try. I did what you always talked about. I set a goal, but the goal was really kind of a benchmark. I gave myself 1 year. And I said, whatever happens in 1 year, if the speaking stuff doesn't work, I'll go back to studying the LSAT and continue on to law school. If it does work, I'll see where it goes. But you're right. When we first started, D, not only did people question whether I could do it, remember, you started before that little TV show that you're on took off. When we first started going to these corporations, I remember a couple of them they didn't really understand your value. They was like, oh, you mean the guy that made the baggy jeans and the t-shirts in the 90s? How is he going to improve my bottom line today? What does he have a value for our employees? And they didn't get it right away. But it was a lot of practice, a lot of explaining, a lot of letter writings. And it's funny, back to, why, when you're in doubt and you don't know what you should do, I always say, put the money on the long shot. Like, invest in yourself. I wanted to be a better communicator before school. As soon as I got out in the public and tried to break into the public speaking world, everything was letters. Everything was emails. All those skills that I had learned, writing history papers and studying political science, it all came into play because I figured out that I could put words together way better on paper than I could in person. And people just started, what I was saying to folks, CEOs, corporate event planners, it just started resonating. And I was trying to explain to them, and I was just, as you say, the easiest thing to sell in the world is the truth. I was just telling them what your story and the company that you built, what it did for me and how I thought it could be of value to their employees. And people started slowly, okay, let's give them a shot. Now, coincidentally, that little show started to pick up too, and that just added fuel to the fire.
And so I want people to pick that up because they see me now, and the show obviously is doing great, and yes, it was a blessing that show took off. But they think that it was easy. Like, I could walk in a room and say, I feel like speaking for you. Right. And when you're out there speaking for a company and a corporation, I mean, they're betting a lot on you. They're paying a significant fee. They are gambling that you're going to say the right thing to motivate their people, that their clients, everybody's going to be happy. You have agents who are saying, they're betting their business on you, because if they put you with this company and you don't do the right thing by this company will never go through them as an agency as well to book various other. You deal with so many other people. But I remember we had to actually take that investment, and I had to go out there and speak for free sometimes, or for little to nothing, to see that, to make sure that we could deliver and test ourselves. And a lot of people probably think that I just got up in the morning and said, I'm gonna, charge $50 or $100 or $200,000, and it just wasn't like that. Talk about that. Talk about that part of the business. How we, how we had to kind of prove ourselves.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up some great points, and the one that immediately popped in my mind is never think that you're too big to start small. You mentioned before that I had a career before, but yet I wasn't too big to come on and work for free. You was a multimillionaire at the time that I was talking to you about doing speeches, and I think we might have got a couple of grand for our first speaking engagement, and then a couple more here and there. But You know how many very super uber successful people right now, if I called right now and talked to them about corporate speaking, they was like, I'm not going anywhere for a couple of $1,000, you know, but you understood the whole process of proving the concept. And sometimes you're the concept that you have to prove. And you have to go out there and kind of put yourself out there and develop yourself and create that value. And you was willing to do that. So we did it together.
No, and that's great. Now, thank God all these years in, and we've been able to motivate a lot of people and work with so many great brands. I mean, I think we've worked with a lot of Fortune 100, 1,000 companies and individuals and organizations and 501c3s. But what would you say to people right now who want to get into public speaking because they feel that they have a unique story and they feel that they can empower people in whatever way? Are there any tips that right now that people you think people could take away?
Yeah, the first one I just mentioned. Don't think you're too big to start small. And when I say small, I mean free if need be. Speak anywhere. Speak to any audience that you can, whether it's on Clubhouse, whether it's at your church, whether it's at a community meeting. If you have big companies in your town, volunteer to go speak. And if you're not making money, just ask them if they enjoy what you say. Will they give you a testimonial? Will you be able to say that you spoke for them? Will they write a letter for you? There's always something that you can barter for. And when you start becoming proficient at it, you can start having these folks record you speaking. And then you chop that thing up, you chop up that footage, and you start putting reels together. But the biggest takeaway, if you have something of value that you think, first, know what you're talking about. Don't rest on your knowledge. Always keep learning so you're on the cutting edge of whatever your expertise is, and then just get out there and give. It's like your guy Gary Vee says, jab, 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 right hook. But it's almost the same when you're starting out. Provide value. Just speak to everybody.
I have so many amazing people like you around that have put the time in, who have gotten through the hurdles, who had focus, who were brave enough to say, I'm at this point in my life, but I decided I'm going to go here, and to just trust your gut, to just leave and start to educate yourself and all those other things. So I hope a lot of people took away, all the things that I have the good fortune of being able to talk to you every day, every night, when going through things and trying to get different angles and perspectives. So I hope people got the same joy out of it and the knowledge that I did. Hey, you, are you subscribed to make sure that you see all these videos with free advice, chats, and business experts and content that will motivate and inspire you? If not, come on, hit the subscribe button and commit. Below is your chance to level up and learn every single week. I'll see you in there.